We're expecting sunshine this afternoon, a high of 78 degrees. Right now, it is still mostly cloudy and 68 in downtown Seattle. I'm Ursula Royteen.
Listen on your smart speakers, Amazon, Google Home, and Apple HomePod. KIRO Radio 97.3 FM. News and talk, powered by the Pacific Northwest.
The Big Lead is brought to you by 3010 Weight Loss for Life.
The Dori Monson Show on KIRO Radio. This is The Big Lead.
Coming to you from the Carter Subaru studio and streaming on Facebook Live. Welcome to the big show. I was all worked up right before I went on the air.
I know.
I'm going to try to get a local politician on the show tomorrow.
I heard a few names
Yeah,
being
I'm a little
bounced
fired
around.
up. I'm a little fired up at a local politician. And it's one who contacts me once in a while. So I'm guessing this person will be willing to come on the show.
Okay.
But they've been talking some smack about my radio show.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Just today?
A couple days ago.
That never happens.
I know it. It's a Republican. A Republican's talking smack about my radio show.
About what particular topic?
I'm going to not go into it until I get this person on the show tomorrow. But I'm all loaded for bear here. As I start the show today. So, and once in a while I need that. Nicole backed me up on this. Occasionally, I need to get super fired up about things because it provides me with a little energy boost that occasionally is necessary to do 3 hours of radio every day.
Especially when you haven't had any sleep.
Sleeps.
Overrated.
Sleeps for the dead. Yeah, I just saw a thing. Scientists are now saying that when you die, you know for a few moments that you have died. You have some awareness that you have just died. I just saw this tweet. Right as I was
Is
going
that
on
comforting or
Don't
scary
you
to
assume
you?
that?
After death, you're aware that you've died, scientists say.
Is that because your brain hasn't completely shut down yet?
I guess. People are aware they're dead because their consciousness continues to work after the body has stopped showing signs of life. That means theoretically someone may even hear their own death being announced by medics.
Oof.
I don't want that.
I've heard that before. I don't know.
Dr.
I
Sam
think you kinda leave
Parnia.
right before.
Oh, he's very good, this Dr. Sam Parnia. He and his team are looking at people who suffered cardiac arrest, technically died, but were later revived. And they said that they had awareness of full conversations and seeing things that were going on around them, even after they were pronounced dead.
But maybe that's one of the reasons they could come back to life. They weren't dead.
I don't know. All I know is what
Yeah,
Dr.
that
Sam
actually-
Parnia
actually
says.
dead, then you don't.
I don't know.
Yeah, technically they were pronounced dead.
I like to think that he takes you a couple seconds before the moment when you're really dead.
Trying to decide what I'm going to do in
Or
those,
minutes,
in
if
those couple of
necessary.
moments. Now, let's just say it's a few seconds.
Yeah.
I want to decide ahead of time how I'm going to spend those few seconds of consciousness, knowing that I've died. I got to give that some thought. I don't want to go into this
Well, I
randomly.
don't think you have control. You have no control anymore.
Oh, I have control. I'll have full control, even after death.
My thing will be just keeping all of my bodily fluids inside.
Why do you care about that?
I don't know, because
No.
I don't want people to see that.
Oh, I've told you many times, I want to be a burden on people in death as I've been in life. But anyway, I digress because I just saw that as I was going on the air. But that has nothing to do with our top story.
The Big Lead. Top story.
So as you heard in Ursula's newscast, you got the mayor of Seattle, Jenny Durkan, and King County Executive Dow Constantine. They have announced a huge, gigantic government bureaucracy to deal with homelessness in the region. They're unveiling a new authority that they say will unify response systems and services. And so what they're going to do is they're going to create an unelected body that will spend your and my tax money on the homelessness industrial complex. And they said that it'll have some governing members of this board. 3 people on the board will have to have been homeless. And I'm guessing, just a guess, not to downgrade the homeless, but if the people on the board are people who have been homeless, I bet their solution to homelessness is going to be more money. I don't think that they are going to approach it from the perspective of what's best for taxpayers, what's best to turn lives around, what's best for tax-paying, law-abiding citizens who are having their cars smashed and their homes broken into. No. For the people on this committee who have been homeless, 3 of the 11 have to have been homeless, they're going to say, give us more money. And indeed, Seattle and King County is going to come through. I've told you, we are already spending $100,000 per homeless person per year, only to see the problem get worse and worse and worse. And they trot out these bogus stats. Jenny Durkan this morning, we've seen a reduction in homelessness in the last year. Have you walked around the city, Jenny? These counts that are manipulated so that you can just expand government, add more 6-figure jobs. I don't have a lot of faith that any of the data is legit. It was like when the accused child rapist mayor tried to tell us that the vast majority of homeless people are not on drugs. And he came in the studio on one of our other shows and tried to say that. And it was so tone deaf. It was such an example. But they feel like they have to tell us they're not a bunch of drug addicts. They're just people who've fallen on hard times. Give us more money. Well, again, the question that I ask you, if you are, say, a married couple with a couple of kids, can you get by on less than $400,000 per year? Maybe have a nice house, take a nice vacation, go out to dinner a few times, go see movies, buy Christmas gifts for the kids, because we are spending $400,000 for every groupling of 4 homeless people on our streets. They don't have a house. They tell us they don't have enough to eat. They don't have the services to get them off drugs. They need more money. $100,000 per person per year isn't enough. Why is that? Because government and bureaucracy and the homeless industrial complex is what this is all about. They don't want to save lives. They don't want to turn lives around. Because, as I've told you many times, nothing is more appealing to a leftist than a completely helpless human being who is completely dependent on government for everything in their life. So they don't want homeless people to get clean off of drugs and to get a job and to take care of their own lives and to rise up to the middle class and to be free of government dependency. That's the last thing politicians want. So what do? Well, they create this bogus commission this morning. They're going to create 6-figure jobs. They're going to keep doing the same thing that has gotten us in this mess. And they sent out a big press release. And they have quotes from Constantine and Jenny Durkan. But I want to read you one of the quotes from Julius, who used to be or still is homeless. They don't say. Julius's title is Lived Experience Coalition Member, which means that he's been homeless. Listen to the quote from Julius. The Lived Experience Coalition is a diverse group of people who lift each other up beyond oppressive structures and the trauma of homelessness to advance racial and social justice. We have worked alongside our partners in government, business, nonprofits, and philanthropy to do just that through the co-design of stewardship and governance for homeless resources. We are hopeful that our efforts will have urgent and sustainable impact for our community experiencing homelessness in King County. Who talks like that? You tell me one homeless person who talks like that. So in other words, you got some bureaucrat, one of these, thousands of lackeys they have run around Seattle City Hall and the King County building, and they write a government jargon double-speak statement, and they put a homeless guy's name on it. No human being talks like this. Politicians talk like that. A diverse group of people beyond oppressive structures and the trauma of homelessness to advance racial and social justice. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can tell that this is going to be a real laser-focused effort to try to turn lives around. It's another way to tax you more. It's another way for King County. They want to spread the problem of Seattle to the rest of the county because most of the homeless are in Seattle, and they want everybody in the suburbs to pay for Seattle's problem. They want to spend more than the $1 billion a year that they're already spending. In fact, they announced this morning that King County will dedicate $55 million in service and administrative funding. Seattle, $73 million for services and administrative funding. Why do I have a feeling it's going to be more administrative funding than services for this extra 120 million tax dollars that they're going to spend? More of the same. I'm going to talk to a King County councilman who is a critic of this plan. Reagan Dunn's going to join me right after 12:30 this afternoon, and you will hear another perspective on all of this. Up next in the Big Lead.
The Big Lead. I sense a Dori rant coming on.
So we had the story yesterday on our newscast, and I talked about it on this show. Sound Transit had this big groundbreaking, and they had all these politicians with shovels throwing around dirt. I saw Dow and Jenny and all these other bureaucrats with shovels because they're all blue-collar workers, And they were talking about Sound Transit. This is a breakthrough day as they are beginning construction to Linwood. And then I went home and I went through every single news story. TV, radio, newspaper. You know what? Not one of the stories mentioned that Sound Transit is costing you and me $100 billion. Traffic's as horrible as it's ever been. Sound Transit is not going to make it any better. And even if you buy into, it's going to be cool to have light rail from Linwood to downtown Seattle, it's costing every man, woman, and child in the taxing district $25,000. So again, let me go back to the family of four that I was just talking about. That's, getting by on less than what we spend on 4 homeless people. Do you realize that it's costing your family of 4 $100,000 is what your family's contribution to Sound Transit is? And if you think that's a good deal, well, you're not very financially savvy. But the fact that the numbers are completely left out, the bilking, the lies that Sound Transit 1 and 2 were built on, how they lied to the legislature and the taxpayers about the taxation, the car tabs for Sound Transit 3. Every element of this agency has been built on lies, and they are taxing us as much more than any local government entity ever. $25,000 per person over the course of our lifetime. Is your family of 4 getting $100,000 worth of value out of the fact that, hundreds of people are going to be riding a light rail line from Linwood to Seattle from Northgate to Seattle, I guarantee you the return on investment is awful. And the fact that every time there's a Sound Transit story, I will remind you of the lies and the cost and the criminality. I appear to be the only person who is going to do that because we got to be cheerleaders. And, you know, the whole media when they got to Husky Stadium, on time and on budget. Yeah, except they were billions over budget and more than 10 years behind schedule. But for some reason, we're just rubber stamping Sound Transit lies now. I will not. Next up in the big lead.
The big lead. I told you so.
Usually it takes more than a week for an I told you so to come through. But I told you a week ago when the Seattle teachers settled, I said, just wait. There will be another local school district that now says we're going to go on strike if you don't give us more money. Because the Seattle teachers got an 11% raise last year. Now they're getting another 11% raise over the next 3 years. 22% raise over a 4-year period. 22% raise in Seattle. And I said all of the other districts are going to do this. Well, Tukwila is up next. The teachers in Tukwila voted to authorize a strike beginning on Friday if they don't get more money. They went on strike last year. They settled. Everyone said, yes, this will make us happy. And then a year later, they're going to strike again, they say. Channel 13, Q13news.com. They talked with Amy Howard, who has 2 grandchildren in the Tukwila district.
Well, I pray that that is no strike. I mean, last year it was horrible. Kids had to wait, and then they had to make it up. Oh, my gee whiz. See, I mean, give them, the teachers, what they want. They are there to give education to the children. And these kids shouldn't have to wait because they striking. They really need to do what's right for these teachers and give them what they need to help these students. They're excellent. All these schools are excellent.
The Tukwila schools are not all excellent. Okay? They're not excellent, I assume, is in the top 10% in the country. On my grading scale, I think the top 10% in the country would be ranked as excellent. The Tukwila schools are not excellent. There is no correlation between student achievement and teacher pay and this mentality, give the teachers what they want. Yeah, we did that a year ago, and it wasn't enough. It's never enough. And so now, go on strike. I wish we had some politicians who had the guts to enforce the fact that teacher strikes are illegal in Washington State. But we don't because we have too many members of the public who just say, give them what they want. They deserve it. Yeah, you know what? We deserve to keep a little more of our tax dollars. We all work hard, too. And every time we get a tax hike, we get a pay cut. And that's the way it is. And that's your big lead for today.
The big lead on KIRO Radio.
Okay. A bunch of politicians are telling us that a huge government bureaucracy and spending more money will help with homelessness. A critic of that plan is Councilman Reagan Dunn. We'll talk to him next, right after Ursula checks the news here on the Dori Monson Show.
This hour of the Dori Monson Show is brought to you by Insulation Northwest.
Thinking about updating your shower or bathtub or converting your tub into a new shower? Your timing is perfect.